the Executive Director at the Uganda Wildlife Authority. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Julie.
It's a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure having you, and thank you for having us. I thank the UBC and all those who are viewing us this morning.
Right.
I'm glad to be here to share what we are doing and how we are progressing.
Definitely looking forward to a lot and plethora of information and wisdom that we are getting from you regarding Uganda Wildlife Authority, the wildlife altogether that impacts the tourism sector of Uganda, but most importantly, domestic tourism at that. You know, where there's knowledge, there's a lot of passion that draws from the knowledge that allows someone's curiosity to experience at that. But let's start, dig it from the preamble. What is the Uganda Wildlife Authority, for the benefit of our viewer and someone who's in the country for the first time and might be wondering what is UWA?
Thank you, Julie. The Uganda Wildlife Authority, UWA stands for the Uganda Wildlife Authority, and this is an institution, a statutory body that has been set up by the Uganda Wildlife Act, the law, Uganda Wildlife Act Cap 315, basically to manage wildlife in Uganda, both within and outside protected areas. The authority basically exists to manage wildlife sustainably, working with partners, working with stakeholders like communities, because it is a joint effort that we work together to manage wildlife, both within and outside protected areas. In other words, all wild animals and wild plants that are found in Uganda's national parks, in Uganda's wildlife reserves, on community land, outside protected areas, is all a preserve of the Uganda Wildlife Authority in terms of management. And it's quite a huge mandate, because at the moment we manage about 10 national parks, with some wildlife reserves being turned into national parks, so the mandate is going to expand. We have about 12 wildlife reserves, we have community wildlife areas, we have sanctuaries. So it's quite a huge national mandate that we've been given to manage wildlife in trust on behalf of the people of Uganda, and in a partnership and collaboration with the various stakeholders, including the people of Uganda, the communities. That's why we sometimes come out and create awareness about the value of conserving wildlife, about the role that the Ugandans need to play themselves, because we must protect, conserve wildlife together so that it can contribute to the economy of Uganda, and we all benefit in the long run. So it is for the benefit of all stakeholders that are involved, so that we turn wildlife into benefit to Ugandans and the global community. Because when you talk about wildlife contributing to tourism, you have the global community coming here, you have the domestic tourists. If we talk about conservation, you talk about ecosystem functioning and balance. We need each other. The plants, animals need each other with the people and communities, so that we can have a balanced ecosystem.
Looking at it, or you explaining it, draws a huge picture. One would even wonder the nitty-gritty of the whole process and how it flows. But let's look at the report that was released by the Uganda Wildlife Authority, 28th April 2026. This report shared a bit of statistics here and there. It showed that buffalo numbers increased from 32,235 buffaloes to 41,548 buffaloes. The Uganda cobs increased from 165,526 to 175,109. The waterbuck populations also rose strongly. Rhinos, gorillas and chimpanzees continue to show a positive conservation outcome, but then there are species that are still under pressure. For example, the elephant population, it was monitored and discovered that it declined. The number declined from 6,621 as of 2021 to 2022 and decreased to 6,352 as of 2023 and 2024, the years. Lions populations also declined from 314 to 291 during the same period. These numbers show a 50-50 on the good and the bad. Do you think Uganda is winning or losing the battle to conserving wildlife?
Thank you very much, Julie, for that great question. Uganda is actually winning Uganda is winning the battle. Uganda is winning in terms of wildlife conservation as a result of a number of factors. As you have read the trends, because we did a trend analysis,
right,
and looked at the wildlife population growth trends over the years, and have realized, as you actually pointed out, that there is generally an exponential increase in the number of wildlife species that we have, apart from a few. So the success is largely attributed to the various efforts that have been put in place in terms of wildlife conservation. And these include, one, awareness creation and partnership with the stakeholders. What is in our mission? That we must bring other stakeholders on board for us to be able to conserve the wildlife. So we've created conservation education. There is a whole department now in the structure of the Uganda Wildlife Authority to do with community conservation and next wildlife services. In other words, we bring on board the communities through awareness creation, through talk shows like this we are having. We do outreaches to schools using audiovisual materials, but we also allow entrance to the national parks for people to appreciate firsthand and practically. We also go to schools through outreaches. We have audiovisual materials like vans and that have videos. So we go town by town, school by school, educating and rallying support. Because the most important thing is for us as Ugandans, who are the stewards for these resources, to appreciate that these resources belong to us. They don't belong to the government. They don't belong to Uganda Wildlife Authority. They don't belong to His Excellency the President, but rather they belong to all of us Ugandans. And once we have that in mind, and we apply a patriotic mind, then we are able to protect these resources. We are able to work with the authorities to work on the challenges that are caused by these wildlife resources. Of course, there has been increment and promotion of law enforcement.
Right.
Law enforcement efforts. We've been able to acquire the required equipment, the required protective gear for our staff, improved welfare for staff. We have drones that we employ. We have employed rangers. Right now we are training more, over 1,000 are in the training camp, so that we can use both personnel on the ground to be able to protect the wildlife from poaching, but also we use technology. We use drones, we use Earth Ranger systems to be able to follow our animals in real time. I'll give you an example. When we got an unfortunate incident when some lions were poisoned in Queen Elizabeth, it took us less than a week to be able to track the wrongdoers, because we just followed the movement of the animals and we ended up where they were poisoned from, and they are now facing prosecution as we talk right now. So a combination of both the rangers on the ground who are adequately trained in data collection and analysis and then trained to the technological system, use of the drones. So both technology and personnel on the ground, creation of awareness. We have put in place a canine unit now. We are able to sniff all illegal wildlife products that are going out of this country through Entebbe International Airport, through the border points in Karuma, and now it is a problem, or we catch anybody who would like to go away with illegal wildlife products. We have put in place a forensic DNA laboratory, wildlife forensic DNA laboratory. We are able to tell that this is ivory and it is coming from this country, because we are able to test the DNA of what we have found you with. And so that helps in prosecution, because we are able to bring hard evidence that is from the lab that is going to tell that this is not goat meat, this is not cow meat, but rather buffalo meat or impala meat, and so we are able to carry out strong prosecution. There has been, of course, other efforts, capacity building in the authority. There is a new structure. The authority was merged with the Uganda Wildlife Education Center, and a new structure was developed. And now the institution is fully capacitated. We are carrying out a lot of training, refresher training for the law enforcement officers. We now have a dedicated training school as the Uganda Wildlife Authority. We have set up our own training school in one of our protected areas, where we take our officers, men, and all the categories of staff to undergo refresher training, because we must continuously bring on board the trends. We must go with the changing technology. So the training is helping in changing the mindset, the attitude, the behavior of the staff for us to form one culture that scores in one goal. And also we have also introduced a zero tolerance to poaching policy, zero tolerance to fraud policy, and these are helping to be able to have a solid institution that is fighting poaching, that is fighting illegal wildlife, but also we have amended the law and now increased the punishment. You are caught with wildlife, you have to serve life imprisonment. But also in amendment of the law, we are able to we now have a specialized court, a standard utilities and wildlife court that tries wildlife offenders expeditiously, and that helps us to dispose of the cases and give the appropriate punishment at the right time using that court. So a lot of efforts working with partners, non-government organization, the government, the staffing, putting in place a robust technological advancement, a robust team that is able to monitor and see what's going on.
Right, and therein you talk about the law. Please give us a bit of a detail. You know, one of the things that Ugandans face or fall prey to is the ignorance of the law.
Yes.
Give us what the law and the policies actually state, away from the life imprisonment, and where are the nitty-gritties that a Ugandan shouldn't be caught prey to. Okay,
as we do our work, we follow under the Uganda Wildlife Act 315, that's the law. But all this feeds into the Uganda Wildlife Policy 2014. And the Uganda Wildlife Policy actually makes sure that in addition to creating punitive measures to wildlife offenders, there is also the carrot bit of it where actually Ugandans are allowed to utilize wildlife, what we call sustainable wildlife utilization. And the law has created, Section 35 of the Uganda Wildlife Act has created what we call wildlife user rights. In other words, as a Ugandan, you can be able to utilize wildlife in a sustainable manner. You can come to the Uganda Wildlife Authority, for example, and get a license to carry out trade in wildlife. You can carry out ranching in wildlife. You can carry out wildlife farming. You can have a wildlife as a pet. And all this is permissible by law. And this brings me to what some social media players have been talking about in terms of the wild meat.
There is a controversy. In fact, allow me read this tweet as it came so that we are able to juice out every detail that it carries as you respond to it. Somebody took to X and they were quite concerned. And this is what they said: we can't be talking about conservation while at the same time promoting restaurants as the restaurant that is being exposed on X that openly sell bush meat. We often complain about declining wildlife populations and reduced animal numbers around our protected areas, yet we rarely ask the hard question, where is all this bush meat coming from? The reality is that every plate of bush meat creates demand, and that demand fuels poaching, while conservation efforts focus on protecting wildlife inside the national parks. Illegal hunting continues outside and around these protected areas, threatening species that are already under pressure. If Uganda is serious about conservation, then the conservation must go beyond protecting animals. In parks, we must also address the markets, restaurants and supply chains that encourage the illegal wildlife trade. Conservation is not only about protecting wildlife, it is also about reducing the demand that puts wildlife at risk in the first place. Without tackling both sides of the problem, the rate of poaching will continue to undermine the gains made by conservation agencies and communities, and it brings a lot of questions and perspective if you read at this lengthy post. But also it also reminds you of the experience. I for one have tested bushmeat from many of these Kampala areas that deal in it, and for real it does create the demand because it's tasty, it's different. But where is the stand of the Uganda Wildlife Authority? Is it legal? Is it illegal? What should we say yes to? What should we say no to?
Thank you very much, Julia. Like I said, the law provides for sustainable wildlife utilization, and it provides for wildlife user rights, classes. Any individual in Uganda is free to come and carry out sustainable wildlife utilization using the different classes of wildlife user rights that I've enumerated. You can do wildlife for trade, ranching, farming, tourism and recreation. You can have wildlife as a pet. So the restaurant being talked about, and I want to look into the camera, is actually was licensed to import wild meat. This is not meat that is within that's got within Uganda. No, it is wild meat that is imported from South Africa, from Namibia and Botswana. Specific kilograms. The whole year of 2026, for example, we licensed that restaurant to import 800 kilograms of meat, wild meat, and we monitor that all through the border as they bring it in. Yes, I have read the concerns that there are some other illegal wildlife markets in the suburbs of Uganda. We are going for them. One of the gaps that we've been having is the lack of concrete evidence that actually this is wild meat. Because if you would find somebody with the meat, they would say this is cow meat, it's not buffalo meat. But effective this month, we have launched the DNA Wildlife Forensic Laboratory, meaning that if we get a piece of meat now, we are able to tell the species of the animal, that is, the origin, and so we are now able to seize that meat and actually test it and tell where it is coming from. And therefore we are going for them. We are going for those markets. It is illegal to sell wild meat which is not imported, because we don't allow any harvesting of wild meat in Uganda. That would tantamount poaching. We have only licensed that restaurant in Kololo, and they are allowed to import, and we even give them a quota and say you are importing only 800 kilograms of meat this year, and we monitor, even inspect this meat as it comes in, as it is prepared. So for those other illegal markets, we shall go for them, because now we have the capacity to tell and take you to court and have successful prosecution, because we have the scientific evidence to differentiate between domestic meat and wild meat. And so we are coming, we are going for them. So that is the truth.
All right.
Yeah.
It's quite relieving to know that there are also wildlife user rights, and there are classes to this wildlife user rights. A lot of things that we get to learn and relearn. And I hope the war that was going on social media regarding this particular restaurant and many other restaurants, high-end restaurants that deal in bush meat, I hope now some answers are now starting to put a ray of light on your perspective. You are watching UBC TV, and this morning we are looking at the state of wildlife conservation in Uganda, having this conversation with Dr. James Musinguzi, the Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Authority. A plethora of information that we are using to learn, unlearn, and relearn, so that whatever argument we table, we are tabling it from a perspective that is well educated and informed at that. Ask that question, share your opinion, 0709-602-592, or even your experience to the same number. It's a WhatsApp number. You can engage and be part of the conversation. Now, Dr. Musinguzi, allow me engage some of the views coming in from our viewer. Rhinos were at the verge of extinction. UWA has managed to return them to various parks and reserves after decades. What does this mean to Uganda Wildlife Authority? That's question number one from Just, I think you're called Just. And then you go on to ask, the opening of the Mbale Satellite Zoo. Do we see other regions with mini zoos getting a chance to have similar opening and promoting these zoos under UWA? That's question number two. And question three from the same author, conservation is still a challenge among the local communities. Who happens to find wildlife, or who happen to find wildlife and kill these animals especially? Snakes, among others, measures is UWA putting into place to reach grassroots in terms of conservation? All those are 3 questions from one author. You did not leave your particular name, but thank you so much for watching the show. Another viewer says, Mfuluma Innocent, listening in from Kasese Municipality. Thank you for the program. Thank you, Innocent, for being on the show. And good morning, Uganda. I'm Raymond Tabazi from Gayaza, Kampala. I love the show. Thank you so much, Raymond, for being on the show. Good morning. Today, since it's now a changing Uganda, we hope to get improvement in legality of our wildlife sections. Have a good day. And let me just get into one final one. Good morning, moderator and the ED of UA. I'm humbled to be part of this discussion. I have this concern. There's an ongoing wildlife conflict on human beings that have time to time resulted into death of minors under the age of 5 in Masindi, especially in Budongo and Nyantonzi sub-county. A number of reported cases of chimpanzee attacks on families and children. References have been made through your respective district offices, yet all in vain, leaving the affected persons or families not helped. How do you help this situation? We have evidence of the cases both at police and Masindi office. Thank you. This is Ochanda Tarasisio Praise, Secretary Social Services, Nyantonzi sub-county. So far, we'll leave it at that. We'll engage more of the comments coming as the show goes on. Yes. Doctor, you can start engaging some of the views that have been shared.
Okay. I want to appreciate the people who are viewing the show and actually engaging, which shows they are very interested in what we are talking about. Thank you. Yes, Uganda has registered a successful story for rhinos. The rhinos got extinct. The last rhino was seen in 1983 in Uganda. And the government came up to revitalize this species, because if we are to compete globally, if we are to make it a reality that tourism is going to be part of the 4 sectors to transform our economy 10 times, then we must innovate and do things differently. And so the government of Uganda, working with the through the Uganda Wildlife Authority, has multiplied the rhino numbers from 0 to 61 now as we talk. This is the southern white rhino species. It is not indigenously it was not indigenously found here. Another species were found here. In Uganda, we indigenously had the eastern black rhino and the northern white. Unfortunately, they got extinct. So the government of Uganda introduced a southern white rhino species from southern Africa, and this has multiplied from 0 to 61, which is a great effort. And as a result of that, the multiplication has happened at Zwa Rhino Sanctuary, which is one of the wildlife user rights ranching. And so as a result of this success, we have made a strategic decision to take the rhinos back into the wild by decongesting Zwa Rhino Sanctuary, but also ensuring that the rhinos go into the wild. It is a historical moment in Uganda that after all those years, we've been able to take rhinos to Ajai Wildlife Reserve. As I talk right now, Ajai is earning money because of the tourists that are going there to see the rhinos. We also took the rhinos to Chidepo Valley National Park. Now, the northern white rhino, unfortunately, we only have 2 females left that are found in Ojepeta in Kenya. But of course, research is ongoing to ensure that embryos of the northern white rhinos are put in the southern white rhinos as surrogate mothers to be able to reproduce the northern white rhino. That's where we are with that. But when it comes to the eastern black rhino, because Uganda had 2 indigenous species, the eastern black rhino and the northern white, we are working with our neighbors to make sure we bring back the eastern black rhino, which was indigenous in this country. We are a step ahead of that. We are negotiating. We want to have the indigenous rhino come back. The southern white rhino is thriving and doing very well, so that when you come to Uganda, you're able to see the species of the rhinos, both the southern white and the eastern black. For the northern white, there are only 2 females left, and they are in Kenya, and there are efforts to be able to multiply this through using the southern white rhino as surrogate mothers to produce the northern white. So yes, a lot of effort has been put in place. This was one of the aspirations of President Museveni's manifesto, but also the National Development Plan 4, to have rhinos go into the wild so that we promote our country as a premier destination for tourism and conservation in the world. As I talk right now, a tourist is able to go to Chidepo and see all the big 5 animals that they are looking for, and also come down to see the +2, the chimpanzees and the gorillas in Mgahinga and Windi Impenetrable National Park. So yes, we are very, very happy and thank the government of Uganda for the support that we were able to have the efforts by Ugandans. This translocation of rhinos was done by us Ugandans. Nobody from outside was involved. So what we did, we had the Ugandans, the staff of the Uganda Life Authority, they went to Kenya and underwent training. We thank the Kenyan government through Kenya Wildlife Service. They trained them and they have been able to translocate these rhinos ourselves as Ugandans, and that's great because when we build capacity, our country grows. Regarding Mbale Zoo, yes, this is another milestone that we have registered. Julia, if we are to achieve wildlife conservation sustainably, we must involve everybody. And if we are to involve everybody, we must create awareness, we must change the mindset and attitude of people towards wildlife conservation. Because in some areas, when you talk about wildlife, they say, that is for UWA. How does it intersect with me as an individual? That's not my business. It is your business. It is the business of all us Ugandans to conserve wildlife, both wild plants and wild animals, so that through that we are able to visit them domestically. We want to also promote domestic tourism, but also receive the foreigners who come, because we should be able to position ourselves to benefit from the booming tourism sector, that we can be able to set up a homestead, train as guides, so that we can benefit from this tourism. So yes, we set up a zoo in Mbale, and the purpose is to take conservation closer to the people, is to take conservation education awareness closer to the people, so that through that they are able to appreciate the value of wildlife, but also to boost the economy of the area. I want to tell you that the economy of Mbale City and the eastern region is not the same again. You have people who have been employed from the region, you have people who are supplying food to this zoo. A local farmer in Namisindwa or in Ibulambuli is going to be able to grow their tomatoes and supply them to this zoo. They are going to grow their chicken and bring eggs and supply them to this zoo through organized groups. So there is a multiplier effect. We are able to teach you about wildlife conservation. We rally their support because we have a concept that we use to change people's mindset and behavior. CUA, connect, understand, and act. When you go and visit Mbale Zoo, you are able to connect with the animals. We must create a connection between individuals and animals. If the animals are very far from them, then it will remain a mystery. But once they become close to them, we create a connection, and once they are connected, they understand the value of the wildlife, both to the economy of Uganda, but also to the ecosystem functioning. What role do plants play? What roles do animals play? What roles do individuals need to play? We are teaching courses like waste management. We need to manage waste in our communities so that we don't clog the streams, the rivers, so that we carry out preventive medicine, because most of the diseases that we suffer from can be prevented as a result of practicing proper hygiene and proper waste management. So we teach all of these in the zoo, and I want to thank the president of the country and the vice president who actually opened this zoo last week. Already it's booming. The schools that used to come to Entebbe from eastern Uganda are now going to this zoo. They are spending less, they are learning more, they have reduced the risk of the journeys. Julia, these children used to travel overnight with food that has been prepared. They would suffer, from the effects of food that has been prepared for a long time. This is no more. So the plan is to reach out to other regions. I want to thank the former National Forestry Authority, the Ministry of Water and Environment. They gave us land in Gulu, in Mbale, in Chenjojo, in Mbarara. They gave us land that we are building this center. So we are going to cover the whole country In future, we also want to go to regions like West Nile.
Right.
As long as we can be able to collaborate with the local authorities and we get land, we want to reach to the people, promote domestic tourism. We want Ugandans to be involved in domestic tourism. To some Ugandans, when you talk about tourism, it means a white man. No, it has to start with us. We must get involved. That's why we are bringing these facilities closer to you, because when you go and visit this zoo, you're supporting a Ugandan to get a job, you're supporting a supplier to supply more, and through that, everybody is getting into the money economy as advocated for by our president. And once we get into the money economy, then we shall be able to go into the upper middle class as advocated for by our president and the government. So we are coming to all regions so that we can bring these centers closer to the people for awareness creation, change of attitude, mindset and behavior, because we want positive conservation action. It comes as a result of a mind which is aware and conscious about what is happening. Conservation is still a challenge to the local communities. Yes, we need to do more awareness. We need to introduce livelihood options. One of the areas we are going to start working on this coming financial year is setting up some livelihood options. Some of the people who get involved in poaching are doing it as a result of having nothing else to survive on. And so we are going to work with the local authorities to engage more and see how to register the unemployed youths, to see how we can involve them in livelihood enterprises, and also involve them in working for the Uganda Wildlife Authority, so that they are occupied. Once they are occupied and busy and are able to earn some income, they will get away from the issue of poaching. But otherwise, we are creating more awareness. We are going to create more livelihood options. Awareness through shows like this. We are going to come through our audiovisual materials. We have rig vans that go on advertising and teaching about wildlife conservation and the value in markets. We are going to target markets, market days where we have a number of people, so that people appreciate how they can actually benefit from wildlife. At the moment, we give 20% of all our revenue that we collect from tourism in our national parks. We give it back to the communities, what we call revenue sharing. And this revenue sharing is helping the communities to put up projects of their choice. And we are doing some bit of amendment in this revenue sharing to target homesteads and communities that are living around protected areas. Can we, they, for example, benefit from scholarships? We want to see if a child from a parish that is neighboring a national park is educated using a wildlife scholarship fund. This person will never poach. This person will advocate against poaching. And so these agents, if they are created in the communities, they are able to create change and mindset change and attitude as well as behavior, so that in the long run, we really support for everybody. So we are trying to change. Of course, it's an issue of the law, and we think that we shall get support. How this wildlife fund from revenue sharing can be better utilized. But at the moment, we give it to the authorities in the local communities, local councils, and they agree with the communities what projects to undertake, whether a road or a health center or a school, and this has been helpful. So yes, we are going to create more awareness, as pointed out, and also create livelihood options. Mr. Chanda from Nyantungo raised an issue of human-wildlife conflicts. This is a very good observation. I agree. We have this as one of our challenges. Human-wildlife conflict is a national challenge. It's a national challenge that we are working on. Julia, one thing we must know is that the population is growing. The land size is not changing. It's still the same. And there is pressure. There is pressure on the resources. There is pressure on the national parks. People are looking for land for cultivation. People are looking for land for housing. But also, the animal population is growing. You have just read the statistics that the population of animals is actually growing, apart from lions and elephants, which is actually explainable. We have a challenge with lions of infanticides. The male lions kill the young males because they don't want them to grow up and compete with them. But that one, we are working on them by collaring these animals and following them up where they go, so that we can be able to control them. Of course, the other challenge is poaching and poisoning, where people have been poisoning our lions. But now we are using Earth Ranger, which is a system that is able to make us monitor our animals in real time. So we collar the male lions and are able to follow them. We are collaring the mantrax, the male elephants as well, which lead the groups, so that we are able to follow them on screen in real time to see where they are going. When they are approaching the boundary and they are going to stray into the community, we are going to be able to send there our scouts and staff to bring them back. We are also creating a system of having the scientists in the field or in the national parks collaborate with social scientists who are working in the communities that are employed by the Uganda Wildlife Authority, so that we can create early warning systems. If the animals are seen on screen and they are straying out of the park, our people should be able to alert the communities. But also we should be able to follow the seasonality. If it's the season of harvesting, then we put the communities on high alert. But also land use planning and the advisory. We should be able to advise the communities around the national parks which crops they should be able to grow, so that they can be able to benefit. Yes, human wildlife conflict is a problem, and we are addressing it through various means. One of them is ensuring that we create awareness, put in place early warning systems, but also compensation for wildlife losses. If you lose your crops, if you lose your dear ones, the law, we have put in place wildlife compensation regulations that are able or that empower us to compensate that family, to compensate that individual. The challenge is that the process is a bit lengthy because we must verify, otherwise people can say they have lost a person or crops or property, which is not true. But we need the records, so we must be able to follow up this case. We want to take this to the conservation area level, so that compensation is done at the park level where the problem has happened, so that we quicken the process. We are also procuring an online application using technology, so that we are able to get the complainant whose crops have been damaged, enter that data immediately it has happened, do the verification, send to Kampala for approval, and then we pay. And then we can pay at the national park level. So yes, I know that there has been some delay, but we are working very hard to improve the compensation and payment process, but it must remain authentic, so the due process has to be followed for us to be able to be sure that we are paying the right person, because at the end of the day we are audited and we must be able to account for the funds, whom did we pay, and we were sure that this person deserved payment. As a result of mitigating human wildlife conflicts, we also allow resource access. That's one of the wildlife user rights, where we allow communities to access some resources from the national parks under an ecological monitoring program. We are also allowing the communities to place beehives at the boundary of the national park. Beehives to produce honey, and then the communities benefit because they are able to sell this honey. They are able to use it for their needs as families, but also they sell and get money. The bees don't see eye to eye with elephants, and so they help us to chase back the elephants. We are also digging trenches, we are digging elephant wall, we are building elephant walls. All of this is aimed at making sure that the animals are kept away from the community land, so that we can reduce human wildlife conflict. We want the people to be able to benefit from the crops they have put in place. The government has now put in place the parish development model. They are giving communities money, and they're investing this money in crops, agriculture. So we must be able to work together to ensure that these people harvest their crops. And so a lot of efforts. We are also doing electric fencing of the national parks. But of course, this must be done by also leaving some corridors for the wildlife to be able to roam, move from place A to place B. The elephants, for example, used to roam all the way from down south, up north, going all through, all from Queen, going out, all up north, Aswarolim, up to Sudan. But now when they try to go, they find homesteads. And so their migratory routes have been blocked. So we are trying to fence off the national parks, and this has been very effective. Where we have fenced, people are sleeping. And we are fencing, but also leaving some corridors for these animals to be able to roam. And we are also trying to talk to communities to turn their land into profits when it comes to tourism utilization. Right. Like conservancies. You can, for example, if you have land and there are animals on that land, it's not a national park, it's private land, that animal, or those animals are still under the jurisdiction of Uganda Wildlife Authority. But as an individual, as a family, you can use this land, you can use these animals. You set up a private conservancy or a ranch. We are happy to license it so that we bring you tourists, and you benefit from these animals through tourism. without even having to go through agriculture. So we just need to educate more, talk to our communities about sustainable wildlife and land utilization. You can actually earn a lot more money from tourism, from these animals that are on your land, more than you would earn from agriculture. So we shall continue educating, we shall continue compensating, and we shall continue working together to mitigate the issues of human-wildlife conflicts. But the truth is that they are with us because the land size is not changing, the population of animals and of individuals is increasing, so we must manage that balance as we go along. Specifically for the chimpanzees, I really commiserate with the families that have lost their dear ones through chimpanzee attacks, especially in the Bunyoro region. I want to assure you that we are working on this problem. We have bought land in Mhoro in Kagadi, and the plan is to turn this land into a chimpanzee sanctuary so that we get all the marauding chimpanzees and put them in this sanctuary. We have also rightly identified the chimpanzees that have been killing, especially in the Bunyoro Kagadi area, and I'm glad to inform the public that we have captured these chimpanzees and have relocated them to the wildlife center, and we should be able to have peace. But the ultimate goal is to make sure all the marauding or moving chimpanzees are captured and put into this sea island. But we have also identified another island in Lake Victoria, over 1 square mile, for us to be able to move all the problematic chimpanzees from all that belt, from Bunyoro region, Mubende, there are other chimpanzees there which are a problem, so that we are able to create peace and harmony in the communities.
Right.
Yeah.
Very well. Thank you. A plethora of information that is very helpful to all of us as Ugandans as we learn, unlearn and relearn on the state of wildlife conservation here in Uganda. 0709-602-592. Now our time is really fast spent, but Doctor, allow me just engage a few comments here as we begin to close the conversation. Someone from Soroti, or Pio in Soroti, says, Doctor, I have a 10-acre piece of land and need to graze cob. Can I partner with UA? That is a question there. And someone else comes through and says, good morning, thank you for the show. And then Mark from Kaliro, you're asking about World Cup. Okay, that'll be for some other time. Good morning, I'm Munyango Felix broadcasting from Tororo. In my view, we urge the government to revamp Tororo Zoo, and this may enable us create more job opportunities. Find where to preserve other species of rhinos being talked and boost our revenue. Goes to Wildlife Authority as well. Thank you for the show, for God and my country. Thank you for being on the show indeed. And Doctor, as you've noted, those also allow me ask if the Uganda Wildlife Authority is prepared to deal with wildlife diseases and climate-related pressures that come with the ecosystem. Yes. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Julia. Thank you very much, Opio from Soroti. I am glad that you're able to utilize your 10-acre piece of land for wildlife conservation. It's a very welcome idea. Please come to the Uganda Wildlife Authority and we'll have a conversation. A lot of people are now turning to wildlife conservation, wildlife ranching, wildlife farming, and I want to tell you, you won't go wrong because you'll be able to get the adequate resources and funding and income from this. So please come. Talk to us. We shall give you the procedures. You're supposed to apply for a license. We shall send you the Wildlife User Rights Committee, which comprises experts who will come and look at your land and look at the available resources that are required for these animals to thrive. They will come and advise you. And we are ready to work with you. Just come and we'll give you expert advice, because you need to come up with a management plan, you need to come up with the species that you want to look after. We must have a veterinary plan. How are they going to be looked after in terms of veterinary interventions and welfare, because the animals we give you must remain alive. We have to be sure they remain alive. So we are happy to partner with you. Tororo Zoo, yes, an opportunity there being proposed. What I want to say is that the government will not be able to set up zoos everywhere. That's the truth, because people want them everywhere. I want to encourage private individuals. The law the wildlife user rights I talked about allow you as an individual or as a family to actually set up a zoo. You can apply to set up a zoo as an individual if you have your money, and you can earn from it. The truth is that it's capital intensive for you to invest, but once you start reaping, then you will have to benefit with other generations to come. So I encourage private individuals, the private sector. These are opportunities. Come, we shall give you the technical capacity for you to be able to set up a zoo, to set up a wildlife ranch, to set up a wildlife center. You can have a hotel and you would like some wildlife roaming around to attract tourists and visitors. Please come. Let us utilize the wildlife that God has given us so that we can even create insurance populations. Should there be any problem in the wild, then we are able to get wildlife populations that are outside the wild. Julie, you ask about wildlife diseases.
And related climate pressures.
Yes, climate pressures. There is a climate shift that is happening, and as a result, we have actually felt it in our national parks. We have species, for example, of plants, invasive plant species that have attacked our national parks. We have a lot of native species that are proliferating our national parks that need to be reduced. So what we are doing now is to ensure we manage the invasive plant species through mechanical means. We remove physically. We are piloting the biological means, working with the National with the National Agricultural Research Organization to see how we can use the biological method. But for now, we are using the mechanical method where we remove mechanically. We are also, of course, dealing with drought, and we are sinking dams for our animals so that during the drought they are able to have animals to enjoy in the parks, and this creates a very good experience for the tourists. So we are sinking dams. I want to thank again the government of Uganda. Through the IFPA-CD World Bank project, we have been able to acquire plant equipment that is going to help us. We have got bulldozers, graders, tractors, and excavators, and we are going to give each conservation area a road unit, a unit that is able to open the roads, create more tracks for tourists to view the animals, remove invasive species so that our animals can roam very freely, because they avoid where the invasive species are, because there is no palatable grass. But once you remove the invasive species, you plant palatable grass, then the animals will be roaming. If you sink dams, the animals will be coming to the dams, enjoying the water. And so we are applying all these methods to see that we deal with climate shift. We have also set up a state-of-the-art level 2 laboratory in Queen Elizabeth National Park, which is world class, that is able to detect any disease at any one time. We have also set up, enhanced our laboratory at Entebbe Zoo, Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, where we've also set up the Wildlife Forensic Laboratory. We have a lab there that is able to detect any disease. So we have set up a robust veterinary division that has employed a number of veterinary doctors. We are now setting up a mobile veterinary unit which is able to start and go at any one time to sort out any problem. We also have ambulances. We are actually planning to have wildlife ambulances per conservation area so that we are able to intervene. If there is an outbreak of anthrax, we are able to quickly go in and work on this. And we are working with partners at the Ministry of Agriculture, the veterinary department there, who have been very, very supportive. So yes, we are ready for any wildlife disease outbreak. We have the capacity to deal with them, both in terms of detection and also epidemiology and surveillance, so that we are able to deal with this. Of course, now we have this challenge of Ebola. We have put in place the standard operating procedures. I want to invite Ugandans and all those who are seeing us, please come and visit. The national parks are open. We have put in place the adequate standard operating procedures for you to come and enjoy your country. Visit the zoos, visit the wildlife sanctuaries, visit the national parks as a family. When you do that, you support a Ugandan who is working there, you're supporting the economy, you also add value to your family, because an exposed family exposed children will not be at the same level of competition in this competitive world with those that have not gone anywhere. Yeah,
that's very true. Now our time is fast spent and the conversation has to come to its end. Doctor, in just a minute, what are your parting shots? Yes, my parting shots is that as the Uganda Wildlife Authority, we are working very hard to restore the dwindling wildlife numbers, especially the lions. As we talk right now, we have partnered with people. We have set up the lion conservation strategy, which we are implementing. Lions are going to multiply and come back to Chidepo Valley Conservation Area. We are multiplying lions in Queen Elizabeth National Park. We are multiplying lions in Murchison Falls National Park. We have increased the surveillance, law enforcement to ensure that what we have is kept first of all before we multiply and bring on board more. So finally, I want to thank the viewers for giving us this time today, but I also want to ask the viewers and all Ugandans that we should be able to love our country. Let's love Uganda, let's tour Uganda, let's be patriotic about our country, because we are able to develop this country ourselves. The mindset of thinking that somebody from outside Uganda will come and develop this country for us should stop. It is us Ugandans, and it starts with having passion for what we have. Let's have positive vibe for our country so that we are able to attract people to come. And let's be knowledgeable about tourism so that we can get involved. Let us start from tourism and conservation so that we can have livelihoods derived and we can push together our country to the middle income status. We create socio-economic transformation. We bring more Ugandans into the money economy as advocated for by our president and our government. I thank you. Right. That is Dr. James Musinguzi, Executive Director, Uganda Wildlife Authority. He's been speaking with us to do with the state of wildlife conservation here in Uganda. Conversation that I love animals, and a lot I've picked from this conversation. Look at me mixing up conservation and conversation. But the show ends here. Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono is coming through with Good Morning Uganda Extra. Thank you so much for watching and being inspired by UBC TV for God and my country.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah yo, baby don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Exercise can't be sustained. Eating can't be stopped. It's even harder to lose weight. Come and give it a try. Genshikang L-carnitine chromium capsules. Plant extract, scientific ratio. Take 3 capsules each time. The active ingredient accelerates fat burning, eat twice a day. Don't take a detour. Weight loss starts now. Genshikang L-carnitine with chromium capsules helps you stay in shape. Please follow medical advice when taking this product.
It's finally here, and you're all invited. This Thursday, the 7th of May,
Are you looking for a home away from home? Then this is the place for you. My name is Chini Kaji, and welcome to Hotel Le Confidential. With 84 comfortable rooms where you can relax and feel safe. Each room has a lovely view of green vegetation, Wi-Fi, air conditioning, and a tasty breakfast.
Children can have fun at our kids' water park and our kids' play area. You can also enjoy our world-class